What is going down to all the sourdough and the spicy squad as we come back for a end of year state of the franchise episode? Not what we wanted, Jason, but it's where we're at. And guess what? We got a hell of a lot to talk about. It's day 3 of the offseason, and there is so much going on in the San Francisco 49ers world. We're going to get into it right after this. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. How are we feeling, Jason? Man, we've had a couple days to kind of process the NFC Championship game, and we're working through a lot of information right now. But well, I just let's start it off nice and simple. How are we feeling today?
Day three feels like month three already of the offseason. I would have thought by today people would have chilled out based on that the game is already over. You processed it. But as it is in 49ers land, and this is a saying that I'm going to coin, we don't create the content creates us. And it never stops. It never stops. It never stops. And the game is like in the rearview mirror, but
Right.
there's a gaggle of things to talk about just from today. Forget the last few days. Just from today, the sequence of events today, the timeline, everything. There's so much to talk about.
There is a ton to talk about, and I want to kick it back to you this time.
Oh,
What do you want to start with?
well,
There's so much. There's so much. So I'm going to let you kick us off here.
first of all, I want to say, I'm heartbroken for Brock Purdy. What a horrific way for his season to end. Again, as we like to talk about when there's injuries to any player on this team, we always want to talk about the human element.
Yeah.
I can't understate how tough Brock was to even be out there playing, even when he couldn't throw the football. Just a gut wrenching way for him to go down. I want to say I love this season, even if it didn't end the right way. I'm heartbroken for the guys on this team that gave it their all, and it pretty early kind of just showed that there was going to be nothing that they can do when you don't have any quarterbacks. Like, I was gutted for Trent Williams, who was like, very much. It felt like everybody in their interviews as they were leaving were very much reflecting on the season, and they understood how exhausting and tiring it is, and to just be there again and to have that kind of taken away with an injury.
Yeah.
I feel for those guys and what they went through. So I want to say I feel for Brock Purdy, feel for Josh Johnson, feel for this team, because the game was pretty much done with once Brock Purdy couldn't throw the football.
I mean, isn't it crazy that an NFC championship game is effectively decided on the sixth offensive play for the San Francisco 49ers? Like, just and let's start there. That's a perfect transition into one of the many talking points that is going to come out of this game. We had Kyle Shanahan just address it. He got a little. He's been watching Spicy Aponte, I think, because we got a little spicy Shanahan at the end of that press conference. But let's talk about it because it is becoming a polarizing topic. With the uh, tight end Tyler Croft blocking Reddick, and
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Shanahan should be raked over the coals for calling a play that utilizes play action and having a tight end do such a thing. Just what's your overall takeaway? Because obviously that play lended to Brock Purdy tearing his UCL, which is absolutely gut wrenching for Brock Purdy, for the entire San Francisco 49ers organization, and all the fans that go along with it. So just what's your whole synopsis of that situation?
Uh, Look, I mean, when it works 99 out of 100 times, and it was the right play call, the right design, because Brandon Ayuk was running wide open. They got him on a safety.
Wide open.
It was wide open. Like, this was going to be a huge play that was going to set it off just a tick late. That's why timing is so important. Just this is how it worked out. And you know what? If that play doesn't end in a sack, or if it doesn't end in a completion and it ends in a sack, 99 out of 100 times it's just going to end up in a sack or a batted ball. That one time it ends up with this UCL injury. So in this case, this is very much bad luck. I mean, again, there's references to plays, especially in 2020, in which Ross Dwelly was blocking Aaron Donald at the end of a Rams game in the same sort of fashion, and he won the block and it sealed the game. So look, in this fashion, I understand you guys are upset. You guys didn't want to see that. That's something that, anybody can look at and they say, well, why would you do that? But when it works, nobody ever has a problem with it. All of a sudden this time, because of how it came out, is when everybody's got the pitchforks out. Because if it would have worked, nobody would have been screaming, Tyler Croft shouldn't have been out there doing that. Again, you have to show different looks. I think Joe Thomas spoke about it eloquently and talked about why the 49ers are so successful out of that formation and why it's such an effective play. So in this case, I'm going to defer to the guys who really understand. And it just didn't go their way at this point. So, we can talk about what Kyle said, but I mean, in just regards of that play, when it works, nobody would have said anything. Nobody would have just pointed it out that like, oh, why was he blocking, Hassan Reddick with Tyler Croft? Two things can be true. Tyler Croft missed on his block, and Brock Purdy was just a tick late. Maybe could have stepped up, but I'm not going to put blame on anybody. It's just football, and Hassan Reddick made a play, and that's what it is. That's it.
Yeah, 100%. It's a football play. And that's the thing with football is that a play isn't going to be perfect across the board. It's 11 guys versus another 11 guys. And guess what? Some are going to win that rep. Some are going to lose that rep. And it was just, I don't think there's, and I think when we get into the conversation of like trying to assign blame to Kyle Shanahan for an injury, like the design of the play was there. Like he set it up. This was in the scripted plays. He'd been working, the first 15 are scripted. So that's what they practice all week. They all understand that plan going into it. So on play 6, they started setting up that particular series of script on play 3 with the similar 12 personnel formation, and they were starting to work through it. And guess what? Kyle called an open shot. That would have been a potential touchdown.
It would have been a chunk play regardless.
Huge play if it was on time. Brock Purdy held it for a second late, and you could talk about why he held it. It was a little muddy at the top of the route from Brandon kind of getting swiped across from the safety. It looked like Brock wanted to be sure that he was going to break open, and so he kind of held it for a second. That isn't a function of Kyle Shanahan. That is just a function of the play happening in real time. The function that is Kyle Shanahan, to me, is the design and the process. And regardless of who's out there on the field, the design and the process was correct because the shot was open. It was the timing and execution of it that didn't work. So I think that's why I think I'm having a hard time with like trying to assign blame, first of all, to anyone like that wasn't executing that play. Because I look at the design, it was there. The shot was open. And if you just executed it properly, whether that's blocking Reddick for a second longer or Brock being able to throw with a little bit more anticipation, the game is different. Like we're talking about a different football game. We're talking about a different outcome. We're talking about a different situation. So it feels kind of reactionary to have people now all of a sudden actually saying to fire Kyle Shanahan. It's just, and we understand what it is, people got to do what they got to do, right? So it's going to happen, but it just feels like so overblown at this point that, just a little crazy.
NFL fans, and this isn't just 49ers fans, NFL fans have a tough time processing losses in big games. Yes. And it's so much easier to look at something and say, well, we lost because of this. We lost because of this. I will tell you this. The 49ers lost because they had 2 quarterbacks get injured and they couldn't pass the ball down the field anymore. Point blank. Yes. That's why they lost. Yes. But when people want to point to one play, it's always easier for an NFL fan to try to digest one of these losses by assigning blame to something. It's how they make themselves feel a bit better. Almost like in a murder investigation. Sometimes the most logical answer is the one that's right in front of you, the easiest answer. Meaning, the 49ers didn't lose this game because of their defense. They didn't lose this game because of a challenge. They lost this game because they didn't have a quarterback who could throw the football. And I think that's why you saw so much frustration down the stretch with George Kittle and what he talked about after the game, and Trent Williams and Dre Greenlaw and guys who were they were frustrated that they realized that their shot is gone now because they have no quarterback to be able to throw the football. And, again, shout out to Brock Purdy. He gutted it out. He went out there and tried to help as best he could, even threw 2 passes with that UCL. I mean, that's a tough son of a bitch right there. But I do think that it's a lot harder for people to say today just wasn't our day. This wasn't our day. Now, you can still sit there and say, here's the best way for me to put it. And then we can put a cap on this because we got so much to talk about, Brad. I'm trying to keep you all day, right? Yeah. Think about whatever percentage you gave the 49ers when Brock Purdy was going to be playing for this entire game as you thought, right? And I'm not telling you what your percentage should have been, right? You could be at 100%, you could be at 75%, you could be at 80, 85%, whatever. Whatever your percentage is, right? Now take that percentage and slash it when Josh Johnson comes in the game by almost half, probably more. Now take that percentage and slash it by all when you get to the fact that no one is there. So at times, it's so much easier for people to try to figure out a way to spin something as opposed to just saying, you know what? Today wasn't our day. It wasn't in the cards. Shout out to the Eagles. They're moving on. They did everything that they had to do. And for 49ers fans, one more piece of advice. I've been saying it all week on all my shows. If the 49ers would have moved on to the Super Bowl in a similar fashion in which the Eagles lost all their quarterbacks and couldn't throw the football and the 49ers rolled and they dominated, you probably wouldn't be saying, well, this Super Bowl doesn't feel right. I don't want to go. So don't tell Eagle fans that they shouldn't be able to celebrate where they're going because you would just be just as happy if you were moving on.
Yeah, and also Eagles fans are a different breed, so you just kind of
got I don't even want to know.
You just got to let them be. don't even engage. Just let them do what they're going to do. But yeah, I think the overall thing is it's just a sad situation for, a special year, right? Like it was a special season. We got it feels like we got a special quarterback out of Brock Purdy. Obviously, we're waiting to see what the recovery time is going to be like on the UCL. But Kyle Shanahan spoke about it today. It does sound like Jason. Kyle Shanahan said the Jimmy Garoppolo era is over. Can you believe it? I'm almost at a loss for words.
Let me tell you something. Tom Brady announced his retirement today.
Yeah. We buried the lead.
Yeah, right. No. So let me just say this. Tom Brady announces his retirement today. Kyle Shanahan says the Jimmy Garoppolo era is over. In the famous words of Jason Aponte, I'll believe it when I fucking see it. And I am not going to sit here and act like this is final in any way. No way am I, ruling anything out. My advice to all 49ers fans when it comes to this quarterback situation, everything that's going to happen in the offseason is expect the unexpected. Yeah. Expect the unexpected. No one would have thought this man was coming back. Nobody thought that Tom Brady was going to come back. We'll see. As of today, the streets are saying that it's over. The streets are saying that Tom Brady's retired. I'll believe it when I see it. When week one gets lined up and neither of those guys are on the 49ers or Tom Brady's not playing football, that's when I'll say, damn, Tom Brady retired. That's crazy. Yep. Get out of here.
No, I hear you 100%. I thought there's no chance in hell Jimmy Garoppolo is going to return last year, but also a little bit different circumstances, right? Jimmy was under contract.
He would need a new
contract.
Right. This feels a little bit more like it's closer to that, but still, right. My point stands.
I know your point, and it's valid. But I do think Jimmy did play good enough to get a contract somewhere else and an opportunity to start somewhere else. There's going to be a desperate team who needs a quarterback or needs a bridge guy. Like he's the perfect bridge quarterback, right?
Yes. I mean, look, and when we say that about Jimmy Garoppolo, people get offended. But let's define a bridge quarterback. It's usually someone who is there to sustain success for a team, who is a starting quarterback, who will hand it off to somebody else, but is a starter. Like you're not doing it. It's not a charity case for Jimmy Garoppolo. It's because he's a starter. So people automatically hear that and they say, oh, well, you're talking shit about Jimmy. Who said that? Like when you define a bridge quarterback, it's actually a starter in the league. And usually for a team that is transitioning to a younger quarterback and actually is a winner. And, it's time for my guest host to hop on real quick. And I don't know what Averly has to say, really. I know she just woke up from a nap, and I know that she's probably as cranky as Kyle Shanahan is at this point. So I don't know if I really want to ask her any questions at this point, but my point does stand about the bridge quarterback thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. I do think that a lot of people take that as insult, but it's not an insult at all. I mean, it means he's a starter. Yes. Right, Averly? Yeah, all right. You're in a better mood.
Agrees.
Yeah, all right.
Step. Look at Twin over there. Love to see it. Also, Corey Soto dropped us with a super chat, says Niners are the hot person who is endless drama, constantly wondering if it's worth it. Be nice to be one of the good teams, have quiet and stability. Oh, that's never going to be the San Francisco 49ers. They do exist. Shout out Trey. Obviously, we did get updates yesterday from Trey Lance. Trey Lance will be healthy heading into OTAs. He
Love
said
that.
it himself. He'll be 100% ready to go. So that to me is at least a good sign. It would be absolutely just mind-boggling if the San Francisco 49ers had two injured quarterbacks heading into the OTAs. So at least Trey Lance is going to be available. I guess we can kind of transition, we'll work our way through the quarterbacks and we'll get to the million of other things that we have to talk about with this team. But in regards to the quarterbacks, how do you see everything playing out? Do you think it's going to be Kyle Shanahan? I mean, we talked about Jimmy Garoppolo. If I was going to bet this time, I would still bet that Jimmy Garoppolo is on another team. But I agree with your point. Never say never, especially with this situation. But I do think it's Brock Purdy, Trey Lance. Do you think the San Francisco 49ers bring someone else in?
I think it depends on the severity of Brock Purdy's injury. I think if you listen to what the timeline was that was laid out today, in which John and Kyle said that they don't expect it to be Tommy John reconstructive surgery, which would be a much longer recovery. If they're going to do the brace thing that happened with Nick Mullins, which they put the brace in, that puts him on a 6 month timeline for them to get in there. They'll probably have to bring in a body just to take reps while Brock is getting up to speed. But it was really cool to hear Kyle say, we're very good with Trey and Brock. We have two starters. That's good. But let's just say, right? Let's just do a hypothetical. You do a little bit more digging. And that bot that tweeted something earlier today, and that opinion is true about Brock Purdy and his Tommy John surgery, right? So he's out for the entire year. Now, then that would be that Trey Lance is the de facto quarterback number one, and that's great news because we're all eager to see what he has. But then you would have to get into this Jacoby Brissett, Andy Dalton tier of backup quarterback, in which it's somebody that you don't want to start multiple games, but in a spot start as someone who's solid and can just help you here and there. Again, so it really just boils down to where Brock Purdy is with his recovery time. If he's on that 6 month plane, I think the 49ers are fine with both those guys and someone on the practice squad. Now, whether that's an undrafted quarterback or maybe somebody, like a familiar face, like maybe Nate Sudfeld hits the market again, something like that, then that's the case. But I think it has to do with Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I'm on the early Taylor Heineke hype train. Give me good old Taylor Heineke. Bring him on over here to be our third string backup emergency quarterback. But I do agree. I think it's going to be Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, and someone of that caliber, someone who has starting experience, who's done it before. Hell, do you see a Joe Flacco come to town? But
Mike
we've
White.
seen it before, Teddy Bridgewater, like you
Bridgewater, Brissett, Mariota,
Sam Darnold,
right? Like there's a lot of options out there. But again, it's like in that same tier of Dalton, all those guys, right? Just what's Ryan Fitzpatrick up to these days? You think he can still sling it, man? Like, let's see if Fitzy's out there, But yeah,
see what Peyton Manning's up to these days. Can he hand the ball off 13,
at this point, just bring in 7 quarterbacks, and let's call up Tom, say, hey, listen, come back. We'll get Tom, Trey, Brock, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, CJ Beathard, everyone, and then we'll just have one big battle royale, like almost like one, like during practice when they're there taking reps. You'll just hear music go off, and it'll be Lamar Jackson running down. Here comes Lamar Jackson! Oh my goodness! And now he's taking QB1 reps. Like, let's just make it all chaos.
And we're gonna have a hell of a lot of chaos coming our way because, as we know, it's the San Francisco 49ers, and that's what we seem to attract. And I put together this quarterback. We're back again. This is already out of date, Jason.
I had to send you that text this morning. I was like, get it back out. Get it back out.
According to Kyle Shanahan, this already needs to be updated. I put the red X on Tom Brady because he retired, and we expect him to stay retired, but we've seen crazier things happen. But now, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo, I've heard enough from Kyle that I need to update this list. So, but it's going to be interesting. What is this list going to look like in 3 months, in 4 months? It's going to be interesting. I mean, we got it at one point where we probably had half the league's quarterbacks on here. I think that was the 2021 offseason. So it's going to be nuts, man. It's going to be a wild offseason. And of course, what is the big driver of interest in this community, it's the quarterback. So get prepared, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Jason and I, we did our darndest to not talk about this during the season because it would be a bit of a fool's errand to take away from what the 49ers were actually doing in real time on the field to start speculating about what we're going to have 2 to 3 months to talk about, right?
We said table the discussion until the offseason. We're in day 3, and I can't think of a better time to speak about this. So for everybody who got mad at us and called us gatekeepers and whatever it is, well, you know what? Let's just lean in. The gatekeepers say that we can talk about it now because we were too interested in what was going on during the season. So, hey, look.
How dare us?
Let's talk about it now. I mean, and like at this point, especially with the news that we're still waiting for with Brock Purdy, it's especially relevant. And then Tom Brady retires today, and now everybody is, kind of wiped him off the board at this point, which was something where 49er fans coming off of this loss had completely warmed up to Tom Brady. And they were just like, I don't care, get him. I'm done with this. Like, and everybody all of a sudden
100%.
now was on board. And then it's funny.
100%.
It's almost like Tom took a peek at 49ers Twitter and said, nah, I'm good. I'm going home. I'm going back to my kids, man. I'm out of here. I can't deal with that. You got guys yelling into their camera. You're like maniacs. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm not dealing with any of that, man. No.
Dude, it's wild. I rejected Brady in 2019 after the Super Bowl. I rejected Brady 2020 or 2021 when all those rumors were going on. And finally, I was like, I've had enough. I don't care anymore because I've always been super big into organic building, especially at the cornerback position. We tried it. We did the draft picks. We traded up. We got Trey Lance. We got Purdy. Both are hurt. I'm like, I don't care. Just get me the best quarterback room possible. I don't care about an individual anymore. I want a quarterback room at this point.
One more name you're missing that you're going to have to add to your picture.
Who?
Derek Carr. Just do it. Just do it just to get everybody mad. Just do it. Just do it. Do it. Yeah. I don't care if it's not a viable option. Just do it. Put him on there.
Christ,
this is where we're at, though. This is the amount of chaos that this injury has kind of tossed, right? Like, again, I think that the frustration that 49er fans obviously have, aside from coming up short once again to make the Super Bowl, is that we're still right back here with the same sort of questions that we have going into this next offseason in terms of all of this uncertainty with where Trey Lance is at in his development, who's going to back him up, all those things. And again, that's why, I joked around earlier, but you do have to keep everything on the table, anything and everything on the table. So, I mean, I'm messing around with the Derek Carr thing, but the point that I'm trying to make is everything's on the table. And nothing with this team, nothing with this organization shocks me anymore. Nothing. The only thing that would shock me is the most logical answer, or an answer that we can all set our watch to, as opposed to something that we never even thought of or thought was feasible.
Yeah, and I think the number one thing to help try to quantify what the 49ers are going to do when it comes to building a roster is they want a competitive winning roster. And they don't care what they've spent, or they will rip the Band-Aid off if they don't feel like something's working. And so at that point, I think, we got into that big discourse last season. Jimmy, Trey, it's got to be Trey. It's got to be this. And they bring back Jimmy, and when it's all said and done, and it's Jimmy who's the one who really elevated the offense last year. I mean, obviously, Trey Lance didn't get an ample shot. He really didn't, and which is unfortunate. But it's just, I think we're at a stage where, at least for me, if I had to speak to my fandom, I'm less concerned about the jersey number and the name on the back of the jersey. I'm more concerned about just getting a quarterback who's going to win games. That's all I really care about. Yeah,
a lot of people have vested interest in their opinion as opposed to whatever the hell works, right? And I think that's the best way to put it.
Sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah, that's it. Like, for me, it's just I don't care who it is. I don't care how it gets done. I mean, shit, if you can win a Super Bowl running Wildcat with Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell the whole year, I don't care either. I really don't.
Whatever. We're running wing T out here, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they let their real quarterback, Jerick McKinnon, get away, but that's a whole another discussion for another day. But yeah, I mean, again, it's the battle of wanting to be right and wanting to see success, right? And I do think that that's just something that's across the board. Trust me, I love being right, but if I'm wrong and this team succeeds while I'm being wrong, then I'm happy. I don't care.
Yeah, I think because both of us know that the success of this team helps us move forward in what we're trying to accomplish. So at the end of the day, we're going to have our takes, we're going to have our opinions, but we also understand new information is going to be brought into the situation, and we're going to take that information, and we have no shame in our game in either saying, hey, listen, wasn't really right about this, but hey, we're also not wrong about this, and that. So both things can be true, and we can just move forward and be happy with it. I don't think it's got to be too crazy. Before Beast Mode Gaming says we in the Super Bowl in the multiverse, move on still.
Bang, bang.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. In the multiverse, the 49ers have won 4 straight Super Bowls, have never had an injury, and Kyle Shanahan's already moved into the Hall of Fame of coaches. In
the multiverse, Kyle Shanahan drafted Patrick Mahomes, and he's already surpassed Bill Walsh's legacy in the multiverse. You know what I'm saying? So we could do that all day. Alberto said Trey, Purdy, Mariota. Thoughts on that? What do you think about bringing Mariota in here?
I mean, look, that offense that Kyle was rolling out with Trey would look a lot similar with Mariota, right? And again, when you say Mariota's name, everyone is like, he sucks. Well, quarterback three, not starter. Like no one's asking Mariota to come in here and be the end all fix all, especially because he's injured all the time as well too. But it would be a way to keep someone around that could run a similar style offense to Trey. And obviously, I am not telling you that Trey and Mariota are on the same plane. I am just saying that they have similar skill sets in terms of running the ball and being able to move. But obviously, Trey has a much higher ceiling, and I think we're all excited to see Trey. See, this is the best part, and this is why you don't jump out the window all off season, right? Or during the season. Well, Purdy's the guy. It's over. Purdy's the guy, and it's over. And now there's a world where Brock Purdy may not play for this entire year. And now you're going to see Trey Lance again. See, you jumped out the window all during the season about, this is what's going to happen. And then something like this happens. And now we're right back here. So for all the people that, were, I believe in Trey. Trey's going to take it over. They're looking pretty good right now because there is a chance that Trey has a leg up, and he probably will in this competition. And if Trey does show significant steps, then how can Kyle Shanahan deny that? So this is why, again, when people ask, well, what's your opinion? How do you feel? I said it's fluid. So much is going to figure out itself on the way to the end of the season. And look at where we are, right? Yeah. Look at where we are. So this is why people want to rush to their proclamations so they can run back and pull them up when you should always be remaining fluid right now, like with all this stuff. And now here we are. And I'm going to give you that same advice at this point. Everything should be taken as it comes. It depends on how things work out with Purdy's injury. It depends on how many steps Trey Lance takes. All of these things are true. But everybody wants to be, well, I believe in Trey Lance. We all believe that if he has a chance to play, that he is going to be great. We do believe that. No one's not saying that. But when you say he's definitely going to do this over Purdy or definitely Purdy over this, now you put yourself in a corner now where you're kind of backtracking now. And that's the part that I've had to teach myself all over this entire season.
Yeah, and I think also too, to kind of just expand on that a little bit before we move on to the next topic, is like I was so hard pressed on Trey Lance starting as a rookie. Like I was like, he's got to. Like there's no world that exists where Jimmy needs to be out here playing. It needs to be Trey. He needs to get the reps, this, that, the other thing. And guess what? It didn't happen. And so I think that season had taught me to be fluid, with just being so rigid into like the thought process and understanding that, because it ended up not being the worst thing in the world. 49ers were literally on the doorstep of the Super Bowl that season. So I think for me, it just, again, in each year as it goes by, now with this Brock Purdy situation, if there's any situation to be fluid about, it's the San Francisco 49ers quarterback situation. So I'm going to be like, like what Bruce Lee said, I'm going to be like water, man. I'm just going to flow where it goes. And that's how we vibe. And if that quarterback is winning me a game, we're cooking. That's really what it comes down to. And Mariota, a quick comment on that. I wouldn't mind it. I don't mind Mariota. But again, I think it's going to be Trey, Purdy, insert veteran quarterback with starting experience. And I think that's what the room's going to look like. Corey Soto says Purdy's search for more opinions, and Kyle's timeline doesn't add up to me. Seems like 6 months is Niners' hope, and Purdy may be getting different info. I mean, I feel like if they knew 100% it was going to be Tommy John, they would have just moved forward and got the Tommy John. I think they're trying to avoid Tommy John as much as possible. And as from my understanding, there's 3 options: standard rehab that doesn't require surgery, a repair, which is a minor version of surgery, or Tommy John. Tommy John is like a full-blown ligament replacement, and that's why it's a year long, like typically 9 to 12 months process. And it feels like they're in the middle of that because he's not a pitcher. He doesn't have that worn down ligament. It was a break of a healthy ligament. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm a doctor or anything, but I've listened to some doctors talk about it. What's the guy you've interviewed him?
Doc Narav Panja. Yeah, Doc. I love Doc, man. He's always been on point. Man.
That man did a 3-minute video, and I learned more about the UCL ligament than I would have reading an entire book on it. Very smart man, and he did a great job of laying out all the options. So I think they're landing in that kind of middle option of getting a repair, but trying to see if they can go without the surgery, right? Like that's kind of what they're looking at. So it's a fluid situation, even with his UCL.
Right. The other thing is the repair, and this is what Kyle kind of talked about, the repair with the brace that Nick Mullins had inserted onto the UCL, which was good enough to hold it steady. It puts him on track for 6 months because 3 months he can start throwing the football, and then after that, 3 to 6 means he's back. And
that's
in
what
some
Kyle
cases,
said. He'll be back at 6 months.
And the thing is that because baseball pitchers have the Tommy John surgery, right? Some of them report more velocity because what you've been doing this entire time, and obviously this is over a year, is you're just doing this. You're just throwing the ball. Like you're just throwing. So you might be strengthening your arm to a point, not to the point where it's like rookie of the year, Henry Rowan-Gardner, but for a lot of people that are worried, like, oh, I don't think he'll ever be the same. I'm not necessarily as worried about that. It just really depends on where you land. And that's what he means by different options. So yeah, Corey, I mean, I hear you, but I do think that the timeline that Kyle and John have laid out is kind of on par with what actual doctors have been saying and actual reference points of other players who have had this sort of same injury, how they have come back.
Okay, we got an interesting one from the Triple Cross podcast. It says, great show, guys. We had this talk yesterday on your show, but we want y'all's opinions on this fun question too. What football position should Shrek play?
Donkey! I don't know. That's a good question, man.
I gotta look up Shrek's measurables.
I think I've got what's Shrek's 10-yard split? How much is he benching? And how is his injury history? Like, does he have any injuries or anything like that?
Yeah, who knows, man. But do you have a quick thought? Would throw him out of position?
Yeah, probably center. You have yourself a mauling center, right? Inside all lines, hikes the ball. No one's going to try to come inside, which has been something that this past week was pretty bad. Like, I don't know if you noticed, and I know PFF is not the Bible or anything like that, but PFF gave Aaron Banks and Spencer Burford zeros in pass blocking grades. Zeros.
How's that possible?
It'd be possible. I think in true pass sets, they had Aaron Banks at 9, and he gave up 5 pressures, and they had Burford at 7, and he gave up 4 pressures or something like that. So they gave them absolute zeros across the board. So that was just this week. But usually interior O-line is a place where you could attack the 49ers because the 49ers generally like smaller, more athletic centers to be able to pull and move. Now, I don't know how fast Shrek is, but you do need a guy who can maul. So give me Shrek as center.
I like that. Well, after doing some research here, according to IMDb, Shrek's height varies between 7 and 8 feet. So at that size, I would have to put him at tackle. He's, you're gonna have that big. He's like Jordan Mailata, just a massive human. And I'll put that guy on the left side, protect the blind side.
That tweet got ratioed into Eagles Twitter got a hold of it.
Oh, good for them. That's what happens. Like when it's like, I don't want to spend too much.
Don't want to start. Yeah, but yeah, no. But Eagles Twitter got a hold of it, and they did not let that go.
I get it because it's like Jordan Mailata had a phenomenal game.
He was really
Like
good.
he's a mauler. He's a great player. But yeah, my pro comp for Shrek would be Jordan Mailata. So I got those two on the same. I'm gonna have them going at left tackle.
Got it.
But
I like it.
good
Interesting debate.
question.
This is where we're at. This is peak off season right here, baby.
Oh yeah, I like it. I'll take it.
I will take
Let's
it.
see. Let me get through some of these other super chats. We got a couple
Mhm.
more coming in. We'll try to bang through these. Let's see. What was your thoughts on several shots of Garoppolo laughing in arguably the most painful to watch NFC Championship game? Super bad optics, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Ken, I don't care, man. I really don't. At this point, you know, what would be the optics if he was not smiling and the 49ers were blowing them out? Like, I don't know, man. Just sometimes Jimmy feels like a goofy guy at times, man. And it's just, again, with the way that game unraveled, with the way that the 49ers were about to lose, with the way that, everything had kind of unfolded in this game, and I knew what was ahead. That was probably the last thing on my mind, again. And I'm not saying this is you, Ken. I'm just talking about the people on Twitter who have made a super big deal about this. If you look at their history, they really don't like Jimmy Garoppolo. So Jimmy Garoppolo is not playing, has no chance to play, anything like that. But you got to find one more way to like take a shot at him and push him out the door, like while you're like slamming him.
Right.
I'll be honest with you, Ken. It did not bother me at all.
Didn't bother me one bit either. Trey said something. He laughed. They're human beings. Also, too, they're not playing. Yeah. They're literally not playing. They're not stressing about missing a read. They're not stressing about missing a throw. They are watching. Yeah, it's a tough watch, and they're still a part of the team. But also, they got their headsets in. They're just listening. They're watching. They have no stress of actually playing the game. Mm-hmm. So if they're having a conversation in between whatever it was, you're allowed to smile. Like I've seen people smile, during a loss. Like it's not the end of the world.
And, like, again, Ken, this is, again, this is just my opinion. Like, I don't, and again, you have to remember during this game, emotions are high for 49ers fans. You're watching your season where you thought you had a great chance again and 12 straight wins, and then this is the way it's ending. So, you kind of want your team to exude the same sort of emotions that you have. My best guess is that Trey Lance said, "Hey Jimmy, we hitting Onyx after this, and then gonna go to the airport." Onyx is a gentleman's club in Philadelphia, by the way. So he was like, "Hey, all right, good idea."
I didn't even know, but I could guess exactly what.
If anybody's gonna find a gentleman's clubs between the two of us, you know who it's gonna be.
Yes, we do. We do. Oh my goodness. Also. What was I even gonna say? I don't even know what I was gonna say.
I'm sorry, I threw you off with the Onyx comment. My bad.
You did, but I don't know. I know what I was gonna say is I can understand how it can be triggering to you as a fan
in that moment. Yes, absolutely.
Who is gutted going through it and seeing Jimmy's pearly whites in the middle of that. Like I totally understand why that would be a triggering moment. But in the grand scheme of context and everything, I don't think it's a big deal, but I can understand why someone would be.
Abi Boris is asking what I know about Onyx. Hey, man, that's a podcast for another day, my boy. Part of the reason I didn't want to go to Philly.
Oh my goodness, you dog. Boxing fan says, "What DN would y'all sign to help Bosa?"
Oh, all right, cool. So this is a preview to an article that I wrote on Niners Nation. So obviously,
there you go.
So obviously, I wrote it. It should be up tomorrow, I think. It's right now in the drafts and it's done. So the 49ers are obviously going to reload this team in the draft. And they may bring some people back. But I did write about a defensive end that I found very interesting that can fit. And his name is Zach Allen from the Arizona Cardinals. Now, his numbers don't necessarily jump out at you in terms of sacks and pressures. But what he does is on multiple fronts, he can kick inside, and he's great against the run. And I do think that that's obviously something that the 49ers are great at this point. But really what I was pointing to is that Zach Allen will be a little bit cheaper, something like where you kind of make a move for like a Samson Ebukam, but I think he has higher upside. And if Chris Kosaric is still here, he can get the most out of him. So, yeah, rushing the passer, he'll have his moments. I think he's a little bit more of a consistent pass rusher than Samson Ebukam, but he's so great against the run. So Zach Allen is somebody that I really like at end, that can move around and play inside and generate pressure in the middle too. I wrote about two other players on there. I don't want to give it all away so you guys can check it out, but I do like Zach Allen.
Yeah, that's not a bad deal. I'm just looking very quickly. I haven't done the research like Jason has, but
I'm fully in
a
off season, dude.
Yannick Ngakwe potentially, I wouldn't mind seeing him. Even Matthew Iondonis or Leondonis, whatever you say his name is. He has some scheme versatility. I mean, there actually aren't that great of options.
And I
But
think
yeah,
Justin hit the nail on the head. Love the Zach Allen sack dance. I mean, you got to add that in there.
and I do think Zach Allen is underrated. Fine, so that's good work by Jason.
26 years old, his arrow's pointing up, man. I do think it's a deal where, he's not going to command a ton of money. You're going to have to pay him for sure. And then again, that just depends on who you're bringing back and what you again, a lot has to do with what you're going to do in the draft. But I do like the idea of bringing in Zach Allen, just like a Samson Ebukam, but hopefully more effective.
No, that's a good
And
one.
and Payne. All right, Payne's in the article, but he's not a DN.
He's a DT.
He's a DT.
I feel like we got this one. Did we miss this one? I might have missed
should we
this
try?
one.
All right, so look. All right, I am giving it away. It is Payne. Was the other guy that I said. So I have Payne and I have Allen as two guys that they can really. Now look, Payne is going to command money. Payne's a baller. He played in all 18 games, and I think in 10 of them, he had at least 3 pressures, including about 4 or 5 of them with 5 pressures. He even had 3 against the 49ers, and he had 1. Payne's going to get a bag. So this is going to come down to who can you let go, who can you bring in, and who you going to like. Are you not going to sign McGlinchey? Are you not going to bring back Ward? Are you not going to bring back Mosley? Are you going to throw the money at Bosa that you have to, and then can you throw the money at Payne? Payne deserves every single dollar. I put this out there just to say he's a great fit. He would be incredible because generating pressure from the inside is something that the 49ers need a bit of help with, and they would be great adding this defensive tackle. But Daron Payne's going to get paid, man, and that's probably the largest thing that's in the 49ers' way. But it's a really great ad. So, yeah, Daron Payne and Zach Allen. Yeah, I'm giving the whole article away. That's what I wrote about.
Who would you rather have, Daron Payne, Jimmy Ward?
Oh, my God. Damn, I'm about to give the whole article away because I have something for that too. No, I'm not gonna say it.
We can tease the article.
You gotta see it. You gotta see it tomorrow. If it's between the two, then I'm gonna say Payne. He's 26 years old. I mean, I think he's a game changer and everything. I love Jimmy Ward. I want him to be a lifetime 49er, but he does deserve to get paid. If everything that he said on his IG live is true about the 49ers putting him to nickel so they can pay him as the highest nickel and not give him top safety money, I'm with Jimmy Ward. I'm always pro player. So it's a tough one, but if I could have one or the other, give me Payne. He's 26 years old. He's going to be a baller for a long time. But Jimmy needs to get paid, man. If the 49ers don't feel like paying him, then I hope he gets it back somewhere else. Good luck.
Yeah, and it just doesn't feel like, they're in lockstep. It doesn't feel like they're eye to eye. I mean, Jimmy made that abundantly clear last night. Yeah. So we love Jimmy. Appreciate everything he's done for the fan base. And he got us charged up, and he got us on his side after a lot of the fans were against him for a long time. And we wish him nothing but the best. But I would agree with you. I think the 49ers, again, it's back to the trenches, man. Every single year, it feels like we are talking about the trenches, and it's going to be on the D-line. It's going to be on the O-line. Kyle made me feel a little bit better about the Trent Williams situation, and I'm sure you guys have heard Trent Williams didn't say no to retirement, which, again, just opens up the door for speculation and talk. Kyle did say he would be shocked if Trent Williams wasn't excited and ready to go. And I can understand kind of the way Kyle prefaced it too. It's like they just like this season, like an NFL season that has a deep playoff run, and the way you lose in the NFC Championship, I cannot imagine how exhausting. Like Jason and I are sitting here like propping our eyes open, just exhausted from doing 49ers content for an entire season.
Talk about
it. Let alone actually grinding every day
playing
in the building, physically going at it. So I can 100% understand the grind of a season and how right after you get asked about retirement and you're like, yeah, I'm like, what, 34 years old? I'm getting up there, like I get the thought process. So, but I pray and I hope that that wasn't Trent's last season, because we need Trent. But the conversations are going to continue. They need to upgrade in both sides of the football, in the trenches, and I think that's where it's got to start, because those are the foundation. That's the foundation of this team, and they prove it over and over again. So I really do think that's what they should do.
You absolutely nailed it real quick. You absolutely nailed it. So me and Andrew had to wrap up the season. And I was like, dude, I am exhausted. Me. And I haven't played a game. I haven't done anything. I was like, I am exhausted. I was like, I can't imagine what Trent Williams is feeling, man. I really can't. And you have to think about it. He looked defeated because, again, those guys are still trying to process how they did so well this year, and it ended in the way that they did, right? Like, if you go out on your sword and you play that entire game and the Eagles just make one or two more plays than you and everybody's healthy, I think that that's a little bit easier for them to swallow than it is how this game was ripped away from them early on. So he did talk about the grind of the season. He did talk, and he is a physical guy. Like, the guy's not finesse. So I just think that right there in that moment, everybody's reflecting on the season. Everybody's in a somber mood. Everybody's kind of just going to give you that vibe of like, damn, I'm tired. They were. And I do think that what's going to happen is Trent's going to take some time. He's going to go home and he's going to come right back. But you do have to wonder, how many more years can you expect this from Trent? And how many years are you going to sit here and say, man, they got so close with the best left tackle in the world? You have to strike while the iron's hot. And I think that, again, this is the 49er fans' frustrations. I hear you on that 100%. You've got cornerstone, top-end talent at almost every premium position, and you still haven't been able to finish the job. I understand that frustration 100%. I think we're all still feeling it on Wednesday.
100%. Build that O-line. Like, whatever it takes. Like, watching Jason Kelce, man, and watching that tape, watching him pull out in space, I'm like, man, this is what I want. Like, I want, and that, Jake Brendel's been fantastic this year, but it's like looking into the future. Jake Brendel's in his 30s. Like, we have two young guards, but they're still very young, and you need bookends. You need a young center. Like, you need to, because we see how quickly things can change. And if Trent is looking at maybe a year or two down the road of hanging him up, you need a backup, and someone who's cost controlled, who you can slip right in and maybe has some experience. So it's going to be interesting. Richard Grayson should play quarterback for the Niners.
Do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
Robin, Nightwing. He's right here over my right shoulder.
Oh,
Rob.
Yeah,
Robin.
Right over my head.
Sorry.
Let's see. We have another one. Need to dye your beard darker like Jason.
Hey, yo. Yeah.
Eduardo Dorrance should play pass rusher. I'm assuming this is another.
That one's going to elude me as well, too.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate the super chat.
Thank you for the super chats. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I mean, and if you could help us out with what that last one was, because I'd love to know. And I'm going to get mad when you tell me probably, but yeah.
All right, so we're getting to the end of our super chats. Trey Lance loses 2 games in a row, and Purdy is on the sideline healthy. Are the players going to go to Kyle and say, put Purdy in? This is my only issue. Kid needs to play, even through struggles. Trade Trey Lance.
Yeah, I do think that this team wants to win now. And I don't think that they're ready to go through the struggles. I don't. I do think that this is a little bit of a messed up situation for Trey Lance, and I do feel very badly for him. Like, we've talked about it. When you have the number 3 pick, generally, you're a bad football team, and you're going through a rebuild. So these struggles can go hand in hand with you trying to reconstruct this offense, this defense, your roster. Well, Trey Lance walks into a team that was just in, was just off those injuries and everything, but has such a win now roster. I do think Trey Lance is in a tough situation. And I do think that, again, kind of going back to what I was talking about with Trent Williams, he's an elder statesman. Can he sit there and go through, a season where Trey, like warming up Trey to get him, and then in 2 years he hits his ceiling, right? And everything. Well, but would Trent be around then? And like, can he sacrifice his body for that? I do have questions about that now, even if I didn't before, because I had always talked about the culture and everything as well too. But I definitely have questions about that right now. And that was always my contention all year with Trey Lance for 49ers fans. We're loaded. You have to be ready for bumps and bruises. Everybody was ready for bumps and bruises all offseason. But as soon as they came in week 1 or, and then obviously he was injured in week 2, people were not ready. So it's a question that is very valid, Tavarius. Thank you for that. And I do have questions about whether this roster does want to, go through those bumps and bruises with Trey Lance, because they're inevitable.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, that's right. He's Bane. Christ. God. Eduardo Dorrance is Bane. I'm done, man. Cook me, man. Fry me.
um, I think it's got to be a competition. I don't think anything's handed to either one of these guys. I think you just got to open it up. But the unfortunate nature is Brock proved a lot this year, where Trey Lance still has some questions. So I don't think the draft capital or the draft status will ultimately determine who's the starting quarterback. It's who's the better quarterback
100%.
this year. And it might be Purdy right now. But we're gonna find out. Purdy's hurt.
Yeah.
How's he gonna come back? It's now Trey Lance gets a little bit of. I think this is good for Trey that he's going to be able to go into OTAs as kind of barring any crazy trade or quarterback that they bring in that feels
He's
like
got the leg up.
Start. Yeah, he's got an opportunity to again prove to not only himself but the team that he's worthy of this, and that's what you got to do. It doesn't matter about us fans. Doesn't matter about us content creators. He's got to prove it to the guys in that locker room that he's quarterback one. And everything we've heard, it comes down to confidence, right? They talk about Brock Purdy as just this ultimate confident dude. Trey has always been like, he's smart, he's a hard worker, but he's a rookie, he's learning. So I think those are just the kind of differences there overall. Thoughts on the cap increase? Any positive things?
Yeah, I think it's going up to about 228 million or something like that. So that's really good. I think it's higher than expected. I don't know if you have the exact number. I know you posted put a post up about it, but I do think I remember hearing that the cap has gone up even further than they thought. You have to remember the cap's going to increase even more after this YouTube DirecTV deal. So that's why when everybody's kind of crunching the numbers in terms of, well, who can you sign? Well, if you structure the contract in a way where it's like, okay, here's your money for this year, but next year when the cap goes up, you're going to get a little bit more, and we have a little bit more wiggle room. I do think that we have to let the 49ers do what they do best, which is manipulate the monopoly money and move things around. And I do think the cap increase has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, 100%. They got to pay Bosa. They got to pay some people. They got some free agents. So it's going to be interesting what's going down. Fellas, why are you guys not in Mobile this week, missing the beginning of Mardi Gras? Well, I'll speak for myself.
You go first.
I was in Philadelphia, and you know what? I was either going to cover the Super Bowl or go cry at home. That's really just like when I was there in Philly, and after getting to Philly, because it was going to be a game time decision, if I was going to go transfer from Philly to Mobile, I'm like, nah, this is too much. Like at a certain point, and even right now, I'm just not mentally prepared to handle the draft season. I love draft season, but we have how much news and information has come out about the San Francisco 49ers in the last 2 days, where my head would be spinning if I'm trying to evaluate draft prospects in real time and cover this team and all the moves that they're making. So for me, I just had to come home.
Last year, I made the trip that Brad was thinking about making. I went to LA, walked out of SoFi. The next morning, got on a plane, went to Mobile. It's hard. It's hard. I mean, not even just because, your team lost and everything and you've got to transition, begrudgingly to draft season, but the flights, man, like it's a lot. So for me, it boiled down to I had to take care of some stuff around the house. It didn't really feel like the right move for me to go, with my family and everything. But I'm gonna be covering the Super Bowl on starting Sunday. So I had to pick and choose. I'm still credentialed for the Senior Bowl. I get the film just like everybody else. I've actually started digging. I found a really good cornerback from K-State that I think is actually really good and would fit with them. So I mean, that'll be something that'll be added in when I get all the film and I'm able to go through everybody who will be around in the 3rd, 4th rounds. But unfortunately, I can't swing with all the money to go to Mobile and then head over to Glendale. So, Monday's the first day of media week. So I'll be able to ask 49er-centric questions to the Eagles and Chiefs, who the 49ers have history with both.
Yeah, and this week has just been like a post-mortem of the season. So there's a lot to go through, discuss. Clearly, we heard from Kyle and John today. They're clearly not in Mobile, where they have been in years past. So I think there's still a lot going on in the 49ers world. And we'll eventually get into draft season, one of my favorite times of the year, but I'm still processing this loss. I'm still processing the loss of D'Amico Ryans. Like, D'Amico Ryans is
Congrats,
now
coach.
the head coach for the Texans. Who do you think is going to come in and fill that role left by D'Amico?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer is Vic Fangio. But Vic Fangio, Steve Wilks, and Chris Harris were the three that the 49ers have gone ahead and interviewed. Steve Wilks is a really good coach. Chris Harris is a former defensive back that was over in Washington. You guys know him, right? The slot corner. He used to play in Denver.
Yep. And he was good too.
He was really good. The obvious answer would be Fangio, but you heard Kyle kind of say today about who's going to be the next defensive coordinator. That continuity is important. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's somebody inside the building that we haven't thought of yet, or somebody that is part of the coaching tree that we haven't thought of that is still out there somewhere. So, obvious logical answer, Vic Fangio. That's who I would want. For everybody talking about, he runs 3-4-4-3, just knock it off. He'll figure it out. Like, he's going to figure out how to use personnel. And the reason that I want Fangio is there's so many, if Shanahan is the blueprint for how everybody's running their offenses, then Fangio is the blueprint for almost how everybody's running their defenses in certain ways, man. Like, he literally is passing it down to everybody. So, yeah, Fangio is a good answer. I think Steve Wilks is a hell of a replacement if that's the case, because he did an amazing job with the Carolina Panthers. But I do think there is somebody that we're not thinking of, either inside the building or someone that is not there right now that is a part of their coaching tree that's kind of like waiting in the shadows, like Smithers.
Are you talking about Chris?
No. Chris Eric?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. And then you have to think about who's going to be leaving with D'Amico. Right. Bobby Slowick sounds like he's somebody that's going to go. Could it be Chris Kocurek that goes with him? Chris Kocurek, Texas Tech guy, gets to go back to Houston. Like, it's just a lot that's out there right now for them. So, yeah, man, I don't know. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Luke says no closure, worst part of it, and still all love. Yeah.
Can I talk about this real quick, Brad?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that the hardest part about this, even though I said that I was at peace with it and people got mad because I wasn't screaming my head off after this game and everything. And what I meant by at peace is just that it felt like it was out of the team's hands once, Brock Purdy went down.
Yeah.
But I think the worst part about this is the not knowing, right? For NFL fans and for San Francisco 49er fans, I feel like NFL fans were cheated out of a much better NFC Championship game if Brock Purdy plays. Like, that game would have been a knockdown, drag him out all the way to the end type of game.
Yeah, would have.
But 49er fans have to kind of deal with, again, the multiverse. And like, if Brock was and it's kind of this feeling of not knowing. And I think that that is kind of a worse feeling than the way that the 49ers kind of went out at SoFi. But for me, I am not taking it as hard as that one, just because when you don't have a quarterback, there's nothing you can do. But I do understand the sentiment of just, I would have loved to have played this game, fully healthy. And I think that's the frustration that you're seeing with the 49ers players. So I hear you, Luke.
Yeah, it's just tough. I mean, Kyle talked about it today. He would have loved an opportunity for those guys to actually have a shot. There was really no shot to be had. I mean, obviously it was going to be an uphill battle with Josh Johnson, but there's maybe an outside chance 49ers pull off a miracle. But once Josh Johnson goes down, it was over. Like, there was no literal opportunity for a comeback to occur. And it was just how that half ended. Once, for me, it ended on the Josh Johnson fumble, because they weren't equipped to come back from a 2-score deficit. They had to keep it within reach to be able to see if something goes their way. When and the momentum that, like, being in that stadium, when CMC scored that touchdown, I could feel the nervous energy.
It got quiet. It got quiet.
They just scored with Josh Johnson. They were freaking out. And they're like, and the 49ers are holding them in check offensively too. And
defense was hooping.
Yeah. When the 49ers scored, the entire stadium went, oh shit. And they had that crazy drive down the field with like 17 penalties. And then right off the bat, off the rip, fumble in there. And it was like done. They scored those 2 touchdowns. It was over.
Brad, there was less than 2 minutes left, and that game was still 7-7.
Yeah.
Let that sink in.
Right.
7-7. And then that happens. And then obviously the play that happens, right? Like, you're not going to fault the 49ers. I mean, obviously the penalties don't help, but you weren't going to hold the Eagles to just 7 points, right?
Right.
But then the Josh Johnson thing, you know what kind of gets me a little bit, and I'm not trying to pile on Josh Johnson because he had a serious head injury. I don't want to, but my thing is this. All I had heard was Josh Johnson is a product of this scheme. Well, not a product. He understands Kyle's scheme. He understands all the play. Brad, I don't know if you can notice. He looked like a guy who had never once heard the verbiage of any sort of play call or anything like that. Like, it was literally like the Drewski meme of him going like, me? Like, it was like they threw me in there and Kyle's like, X-Wing 17, cloak dagger, this, that, that. And he's just like, say it again. And then, like, there's so many delay of games. The guy was not prepared.
Yeah.
The guy was not prepared. It was way too big for him. But all I had heard was, he knows his scheme. He knows that he's worked in here before, all of these things. And that's why they were so safe with bringing him in, right? Like, right after. But none of that was apparent during that game at all. Like, he looked lost. He looked like a guy who hadn't been in the league for 13 years with 13 different teams. He looked like a guy playing for his first 13 minutes.
Yeah, it was freaking brutal, man. And being there live to watch it all, it was just like watching I compared it to watching the Titanic live, and just watching this beautiful ship, just with all its majestic beauty, just slowly sinking into the ocean, and it's just like this is terrible.
Yeah.
But it is the off season, Jason, so we have a lot. We're going to have a lot to talk about. It's somehow the 49ers are still going to be the number one ticket in town. They're still going to generate conversation, and we're going to be here to talk about it all. But until then, what other stuff you got cooking? I heard you have an article coming out on Niners Nation. What other stuff you got?
Yeah, article coming out tomorrow about the two of the three. One of the three is a surprise of free agents that the 49ers could target. Already talked about the two. Kind of just gave it all away. There'll be stuff this week, but I leave for Glendale on Sunday, it looks like. And I'll be there to pick up my credential, be there for media week. So, you guys can tap in with that if you want to. I know it's going to be painful to watch, Jalen Hurts and those guys and everything and kind of just wonder what if, but I'm just going to add it to my resume and be an experience. If you guys want to check it out, by all means, if you don't, I completely understand. But Brad, before we go, the most bittersweet part about all this is we have no more games to preview. This has been a fucking fun season. When you think about where we started, Trey Lance starting, getting injured. Jimmy Garoppolo back, getting injured. Brock Purdy, 12 straight wins. Then to have it go out like this, obviously, no season is going to be perfect if you don't finish it, right? But for me, man, I had a blast doing this with you. I always have fun doing this with you. You're an amazing analyst, but you're an even better friend in person. So this just feels bittersweet that this is kind of the way we have to wrap it up, for this season, just based on the circumstances and just based on the fact that there's no more games to talk about anymore, man. So, I just enjoyed doing this with you so much. I enjoyed talking about the games, and it was really fun to just continuously talk about wins. Like even Kyle said, I've never gone that long of a stretch without dealing with a loss. So, yeah, man, I'm a little bit more gutted that I'm not going to be able to do this with you, talking about games.
I know, man. We had a really good run there, man. And we've been on a run now for what, like 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Aponte, the ginger beard, getting after it on Wednesdays, man. It's been a blast, dude. Talking with you. You've taught me a lot. You've helped me kind of break out of my shell a little bit. And I absolutely have to credit some of that to you, man. Some of your spiciness has definitely rubbed off on me, and I appreciate it. And because I think we have a nice balance here.
Yeah.
And I think it's just been hella fun just being able to go through this journey with guys like you, guys like Jordan Elliott, guys, Andrew Pasquini, and all the friends we've made along the way, right, man? It's been fantastic. It's been a phenomenal season, man. And I share the same opinion as you, just gutted that it's over. And the way it ended, neither one of us were ready for it, but it's here. And we're going to bask in it. And we're not running from it.
No.
But it is just tough with how it ended. But as we continue to build our platforms. It has been a blast to be able to do it alongside you, man, and just watch all of us grow. It's
Yeah.
been phenomenal, and
Mhm.
we're not done. We're not even close to be done.
Shout
We
out
talk about this all the time. We're just scratching the surface, man.
and shout out to my guy Jordan Elliott, who's covering the Pro Bowl, was on a flight with some of your favorite 49ers on the way out there. My boy is killing it right now, man.
Yep.
And I got the Super Bowl the next week, and then before you know it, Brad, we'll be back in Indy at the Combine cooking. And you know what they're giving us this year is they're giving us as media on-field access.
Whew,
We don't have to sneak around and hey, who are you? And just run. Like, we don't have to do any of that. So we're starting to get closer and closer. So and then right after that is the draft in Kansas City. I can't wait to get out there and cover that as well too. So I mean, we're just right now, the focus is going to be trying to give you guys content while also building our resume and learning more about ourselves as evaluators to try and figure out, what guys you should be excited about, and yeah, man, just thank you guys also too. Like, everybody who watches our channel, everybody who watches our show, none of this is possible without you guys. None of this is possible to give us the energy to do it. There's days, I'm not going to lie, life is whipping my ass, but I know that it's Wednesday and I got to get on here. And the reason that is because of you guys and looking at all your comments and everybody who enjoys and looks forward to the show and looks forward to any of the shows on our channels. You guys really help push us in a way where, okay, we might not be feeling it this day because we're human. Not everybody's always happy all the time,
Right.
but we know that we're here. And if we can give you entertainment and we can take your mind off of the same sort of things that we're thinking about, you guys help us take our minds off of the things that we got going on in the crib too. So, you guys are friends and family to us as well.
Absolutely, well said. We got some of the best viewers in all the land. Quick one, we got a last one from John.
Mhm.
Fangio or Richard Sherman as DC. I'm gonna go.
You know what, man? I do think that Richard Sherman is eventually going to get a look at maybe he'll start off as a secondary coach because he's so smart, man. He understands the game in and out. It's not something that's completely off the table, but as of right now, with a team that's win now, I don't think they can mess around with someone who may go through bumps and bruises, even though, again, with Robert Saleh, there were so many people that were like, oh, Saleh is unprepared. He's not going to be able to get it done, and he grew, right? But he was able to grow in 2018. And then in 2019, the 49ers went to the Super Bowl. So for a win now team, give me Fangio, but I do see it in Richard Sherman's future.
Yeah, I could see that too. Great communicator and a great player and a great leader, all that good stuff. But I'm out of here for now. I'm actually about to hop over onto Larry Kruger's channel.
That's what the streets are saying.
If you guys want to follow my ginger
SDS raid
there. SDS raid.
SDS raid. Yo, y'all really, really crushed. Andrew Pasquini had no idea what was going on with that.
Hey, I can't take credit for that idea, but we definitely egged it on. It's been pretty funny to watch, and they're about to SDS raid Larry. So appreciate again everyone who's vibing with us. You guys already know we're streaming on both channels. Follow Jason Aponte. Follow my channel as well. Smash the like button on both shows. Drop the link. I don't got the link handy. I apologize, but just type in Larry Kruger, and that's where I'll be in about 5 minutes. Jason, appreciate you as always, and the show goes on. We'll continue, and we will continue to vibe as always. But of course, thank you, Jason, and thank you to everyone who watches our channel. We're out.
Later.
Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.